Next on Unsolved Mysteries. It's a dark, forbidden world inhabited by black magic and mystical creatures. Two people visit and never come back. Meet the Olesens, a family that seems to be a magnet for bolts of lightning. Why is that? Like a real-life Thelma and Louise, a middle-class mother and her best friend go on a rampage, terrorizing unsuspecting men. A guard is taken hostage during a prison break. Authorities wonder if she was part of the plan.
5 intriguing stories. Stories that you won't want to miss. I'm Dennis Farina, and this is Unsolved Mysteries.
Tacoma, Washington.
And I believe that takes that.
One night, 4 young people were playing a game that involves mystical creatures, fantasy, and magic.
You know, I'm getting kind of tired. I think we should call it a night.
You gotta go?
Yeah. What time is it? What do you got?
It's
like 11, isn't it?
It's pretty close.
It's early.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
The next night, 2 of them were dead. The victims of a hideous double murder. 25-year-old Michael Johnston was married with 2 children. Rochelle Robinson, 19, was studying to be a teacher. Detectives soon discovered that Michael and Rochelle had been lovers.
Detectives think the motive for the double murder was jealousy over the affair. Others believe that the couple was lured by a charismatic killer into the dangerous world of the occult.
Michael Johnston's body was found near Rochelle's car less than 6 hours after they left the card game. His throat had been cut, and he had been shot once in the head at point-blank range. Rochelle's body was found later that day on a remote road 5 miles from where Michael's body had been found. She had been stabbed repeatedly, and her throat was slashed to the bone. A large cardboard box covered Rochelle's body. Police believe that sometime after 1 a.m., Michael and Rochelle parked their car on a quiet road near a popular shooting range called the Tacoma Sportsman's Club. They were alone for a while.
They were forced to dress hastily. Rochelle Robinson had Michael Johnston's t-shirt on inside out when her body was found. And they were removed from her vehicle, probably at gunpoint.
All right, look.
Evidence suggested that Michael was handcuffed, then forced to kneel near the front of Rochelle's car.
Let it go. All right, I need to do this. No, please.
Law enforcement believes that Michael Johnston was a passive victim. The real target was Rochelle Robinson. There were several knife pricks in her neck, which would indicate to me that somebody held a knife to her throat to force her to accompany him.
Detective Reinecke believes the killer then drove Rochelle to an isolated road and brutally murdered her. He also believes that it was a crime of passion.
You just killed Michael!
What did I just do for you?
You just killed Michael!
I did it for you. What I did it for you?
No, don't hurt me! Don't hurt me!
Investigators believe that the perpetrator of this crime knew Rochelle well and probably wanted to have a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship with her or was an ex-boyfriend of hers.
Rochelle felt that she was being stalked by a guy that came into her work approximately 3 or 4 months before they found her. She felt that he'd followed her home several times, that he'd come to work and just stared at her until she left work.
This sketch of the stalker is based on eyewitness descriptions. His connection to the crime is unknown. After a year with no new leads, Michael's wife, Janet, hired private investigator Jim Wright.
Janet, as part of this investigation, I'm going to have to ask you some uncomfortable questions.
First, Jim had to clear the victim's family. Starting with Michael's wife, Janet, he asked her about life insurance policies.
What type of an insurance policy did you have on Michael, and how much?
We both had very large life insurance policies on each other, and that was at my insistence because I felt if something happened to me, I wanted to make sure that Mike had the financial stability so that he wouldn't have to work, so that he could take care of the kids.
Were you ever aware of any extramarital relationships that Michael's had?
He and Rochelle were seeing each other. I don't know how long it had been going on. I don't know if they were going to stop soon or if he was going to leave me or what.
Janet passed a polygraph test. Jim Wright concluded that she wasn't involved in the crime. But he did discover that Michael loved the world of fantasy games, black magic, and the occult. Jim believes that's how Michael and Rochelle met their killer.
Because of the nature of this crime, we believe that people who were involved in possible occult-type activities could be the kind of people that would commit this type of a murder.
Another year passed, and still no leads. Jim decided to employ an unorthodox approach. Wright turned to Nancy MYER, a well-known psychic who has helped police on more than 300 homicides.
It was very hard on Jim because I said, you will not tell me anything because it has no validity if you tell me things ahead of time. I don't want someone else's theories because to me, if you're going to work psychically and do it purely, you should not pre-read. You should go out there and work it cold.
Without telling her where they were going, Jim took Nancy to the road near the Sportsman's Club where Michael had been murdered.
I can feel Michael here. I can feel his pain. I can feel the fear. I can feel him pleading.
We don't need to do this. No, please.
I can also get images of what's just happened to Rochelle, so I feel he must have died second. Because I can feel that the awful images in his mind of what Rochelle has gone through.
Please, don't hurt me.
I would not be able to agree with a theory that would have Michael as an innocent bystander, not the object of this killing. To me, from what I can sense, it's the other way around. Michael was the actual object.
Don't do this, come on.
Nancy felt that Michael and the murderer knew each other from their involvement in black magic. As she saw the crime, Michael and Rochelle were parked on an isolated road. The killer, a man in his late 30s, and 2 young accomplices, crept up on the unsuspecting lovers.
Come on out, Mikey. I need to talk to you, man.
No!
What?
They seem to be accusing him of violating some kind of regulations. It almost felt like a cult type of situation.
Nancy said that after the killer stabbed Rochelle, he and his accomplices drove Michael to the Sportsman's Club.
Shut up! No! Shut up!
Nancy was able to vividly picture all 3 assailants. An artist sketched her impressions. She believes the killer might teach at a local college and has probably killed before. These are Nancy's impressions of the 2 accomplices, both in their early to mid-20s. Nancy also saw this dragon wing medallion. She feels the symbol somehow links Michael and the killers. The authorities, however, do not agree with Nancy's theory. They remain convinced that the killer knew Rochelle and was a friend or acquaintance. Meanwhile, Rochelle and Michael's families can only hope that the mystery will someday be solved.
It's a horrible, horrible feeling. It's almost like a merry-go-round. And some days you just want to say, let me off, I can't take it. And you can't. You'll never, never get off of it.
I know these people, whoever did it, they're going to pay either in this life or the next, and I have complete faith that that's going to take place.
Authorities believe a key clue in this case is the cardboard box that covered Rochelle's body. Originally, the box held large sheets of professional printing paper. Forensics revealed that the killer brought the box to the scene after storing it in his home or office for several years. Perhaps someone watching tonight has seen the box before. A $16,000 reward has been offered in this case. If you have any information, please log on to our website at unsolved.com. Next, an entire family seems to attract bolts of lightning. Only a lucky few have lived to tell their story.
It's a force of nature so powerful that it's been called the finger of God. No one knows where or when it will strike. But one Illinois family seems to have been targeted time and time again. For them, every thunderstorm means possible death.
I think the lightning likes us. Once in a while, if we get a bolt that strikes, real close, and start thinking about it.
Since I've told coworkers and friends this, they tend to kid me a lot, and nobody wants to give me a ride home when it's raining out.
I think it'll strike me again, and that someday it's going to get me and kill me.
1941, I stayed with her out in the country.
Meet the Olsen family of Elgin, Illinois.
So was there anybody else early on?
Over the last 4 generations, at least 10 members of the Olsen family have had close encounters with lightning. 2 of them have died.
The first person that was killed by lightning was Chris Olsen, and he died in 1899.
That day in May of 1899, it was very, very stormy.
Dr. Chris is here. Come in, Chris, come in.
Chris Olsen was just 23 years old. That afternoon, he visited his fiancée and her father.
Rain, I hear you having trouble on the farm.
Yeah, the north fence shifted. Mud. Hi.
Hello.
Chris Olsen died instantly. The lightning never touched the others. More than 2 decades later, Chris' older brother Ole went out to feed the animals during a summer storm. Lightning struck him dead at the barn door. It was then that the Olsens began to wonder if death by lightning was a fate they all shared. Christine Olsen, Chris and Ole's sister, lived her life terrified of lightning.
I came out for my summer visit, and had a day that was very cloudy outside, and it was dark early, and so she put me to bed, and I was laying there probably a half hour, and then I could hear thunder in the background, and the lightning start, bolts of it coming down.
Come, Billy, quickly, we've got to go outside.
But why?
Well, because we've got to get away from the lightning. We'll go out to the old car.
The more I got out the bedroom door, and this bolt of lightning hit, blew a hole in the wall across the metal ceiling. And the ceiling lit up like a neon sign. But I think after that, we didn't stop too long. We just tore out the back door and ran out to the car.
Bill and his grandmother stayed in the car for the rest of the night. But against all odds, this wasn't Bill's last brush with death by lightning.
Ball of lightning shot in through the window, hit the toaster, blew the toaster off the table, went over, missed the little girl in the high chair, just went by her, this ball, hit the phone on the wall, and knocked the phone off the wall and went out through the phone area.
During a summer storm 5 years later, lightning struck yet again. This time, it was Bill's cousin Connie. She was waiting to be picked up from work by her sister, Karen. As is often the case with lightning, the charge actually shot up from the ground.
There was a different kind of feeling about the atmosphere. It felt like it was full of electrical charges, and it was like an eerie kind of feeling.
Connie! Every single joint in my body violently jerked. Connie! I don't remember anything after that because I was knocked unconscious.
Connie's boss helped her to Karen's car. To everyone's complete surprise, Connie was unharmed.
When I came to in the car, my body had a tingling sensation. My arms and my chest area were numb. When my sister told me that I was struck by lightning, I was just really surprised. I had absolutely no idea that that's what happened. But then I thought, well, that's what lightning feels like.
Lightning has always kind of scared me, and I'm sure some of it is due to that that occurrence that had happened when I was young.
Bradley Hampel is a fourth-generation Olsen. When he was 15, he visited his grandmother's farm in Burlington, Illinois. He didn't know anything about the family's history with lightning.
The light was so bright that I couldn't see for a second. Finally, when it kind of shook off and I realized what had happened, lightning had hit somewhere. And there was probably a 10-inch diameter charred circle on the door that was smoking. Since that time, I have been very scared of lightning. It wasn't necessarily a life-changing experience. I didn't turn good or anything because of it, but it was something that it was probably the first time in my life that realization is, wow, you could have just been killed. Do you have being struck by lightning next to your name?
No, I don't.
Okay.
You probably should add that. We should put a little lightning bolt on.
What is the link between this family and lightning?
I've never heard of another family where two family members had been killed by lightning. Whether the whole Olsen family has a genetic predisposition to be struck by lightning, I would answer no, because from a scientific point of view, the lightning starts in the cloud, has no idea what's going on in the ground. Just works its way down randomly and then hits what's under wherever it gets to.
I believe that there's an organic reason why lightning strikes my family. Connie! And I also feel that what you fear most is what you attract. And many members of my family fear lightning, and therefore they attract lightning to them.
Everybody squeeze together so we can get a good family picture here.
Given their family history, the Olsens can't help but wonder who's next.
One more. Let's say lightning this time for the occasion. Lightning!
Next, a woman leaves a bar with a man and disappears. He claims he's innocent. The trouble is, he's killed before.
When we first aired this story, millions of viewers watched our profile of accused killer Dennis Keith Smith. Who knew that one of those viewers was Smith himself?
At the age of 22, Dennis Keith Smith brutally murdered his own sister. He was sentenced to life in prison, but served only 10 years. Shortly after his release, Smith then became a suspect in the disappearance of Carolyn Killaby of Vancouver, Washington. Eyewitnesses saw Smith leave a Vancouver bar with Carolyn. She'd had several drinks, and that was the last time she was seen alive. When he was questioned by police, Smith said he had nothing to do with her disappearance.
What's going on? Like, what happened?
Detectives didn't believe him, especially after they impounded his pickup truck.
Oh man, that's more than a cigarette burn.
Yeah, it looks like he took a torch to it.
There was a huge hole on his front seat, and the seat cover was gone. Also, every inch of carpeting had been stripped off the floor.
At that point, basically, I knew that Dennis was hiding something from us. Maybe any evidence that Carolyn was in his truck or that something bad happened to her in the truck.
But suspicions alone were not enough to keep Smith locked up. By the time authorities had enough evidence to charge him with murder, Smith had already left town. Update. On the night of our broadcast, two viewers, Tracy Hodelman and John Cummings, had gotten together with a new friend to watch Unsolved Mysteries. The friend said his name was Dave Sanborn.
He kind of started getting nervous. And I said, "Oh my gosh, Johnny," I said, "look who that looks like." And he was sitting right next to me. And they started describing the color of his tattoos that were on his arm. And I looked over and I said, "You have those color tattoos, you know?" And he asked me, "Is there anything else on?" He didn't want to watch the show. And I said, "No, I like the show, I'll watch it." And he, got up and went in the kitchen and he started pacing around.
Their new friend, Dave Sanborn, turned out to be Dennis Keith Smith. Smith asked to borrow their car, but he never returned. John and Tracy called the police. Authorities caught up with Smith 2 days later at this intersection. He did not give up easily.
He turned and charged the officers and a fight ensued. During the course of that fight, he attempted to remove the firearm from one of the officers. The second officer fired a single shot, striking Mr. Smith in the neck.
Smith was also shot in the wrist. After 2 weeks in the hospital, he appeared in a Florida court and was then extradited to Washington State. Dennis Keith Smith was charged with the murder of Carolyn Killaby. Because police never found Carolyn's body, they turned to a new form of DNA testing. They compared her mother's and daughter's DNA with blood found in Smith's truck. The samples were indeed related, and it was enough for a conviction. Smith was sentenced to 70 years in prison for the murder and an additional 99 years for violating parole. After 6 years behind bars, he committed suicide by hanging himself with a bedsheet attached to an air vent in his cell.
Carolyn? Yeah, okay. We're running a little late.
They met while working as nurses at a psychiatric hospital in Houston, Texas. Almost immediately, the two women were up to no good. Eventually, the police would come to know them as Thelma and Louise. By day, Rose Turford was a loving wife, devoted mother, and dedicated professional. But by night...
Here we are. Got the wine, the key.
Great.
The room's right here.
Oh, good.
Rose began meeting men through personal ads, and then she would lure her dates to out-of-the-way motel rooms. A little soft music, a good bottle of wine, and it was time for her friend Carolyn Stevens to enter.
Sit down on the bed.
The Thelma and Louise bandits moved quickly and methodically.
Now take off your clothes.
I'm going to the bank.
Carolyn would stand guard while Rose ran out to use the victim's credit cards.
Rose and Carolyn, from the onset, wanted to be the real-life Thelma and Louise. They wanted to experience that thrill and the spontaneity, and the only thing is I don't believe they ever considered what they were going to do to their families.
In 3 months, Rose and Carolyn robbed at least 10 men of more than $250,000. But eventually, their luck ran out. Carolyn and Rose were caught and arrested. Bail was set at $250,000 each.
It seems as though prior to both Rose and Carolyn going to jail and being arrested, they had this pact that if one got out, they both got out.
Look, I'm sorry I have to keep calling you, but Avery is putting pressure on me.
Carolyn repeatedly begged Rose's parents to bail them both out. She claimed that a mysterious private investigator named Avery was threatening Rose's children.
But Rose and I know what he's capable of, and we should all take him seriously.
Probably the weirdest part of this whole scenario was the man named Avery. I never bought that he was real. It was just too far-fetched.
But Rose's family believed Avery was real, and so did her husband's family. They even put up their house and restaurant for bail.
I tried to convince the parents, don't make both bonds. And it's not often that you sit and try to speak to someone about not giving you $25,000. But I just knew it was a problem, and I knew it wasn't going to work, and it didn't.
Sure enough, after posting bail, Rose and Carolyn took off again. This time, they left a letter behind which claimed they had been kidnapped by the mysterious Avery. In reality, the Thelma and Louise bandits were on the run, and now Rose's in-laws were in danger of losing their home and their business.
We wanted to help in any way we could. I never once entered my mind that they would disappear. Never.
I really hope that Rose and Carolyn just stop and think. They're going to basically throw really, really good, honest, hard-working people out in the streets. And if they have to go to jail, well, that's just kind of the price you pay for making a mistake. But it's a lot better to pay a price once than to pay it all your life.
Update. A few months later, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police received a tip and arrested Carolyn Stevens and Rose Turford. Both women were extradited to Houston. There, they were charged with aggravated robbery and kidnapping. Rose Turford was convicted of robbery and given 30 years. She served her time and has been released. Carolyn Stevens was also convicted of robbery, but because of a plea bargain arrangement, she was given 10 years. She served 9 of those years and was released. Next, a well-respected child therapist disappears and everyone fears the worst. Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It seemed like the beginning of an ordinary weekend at a neighborhood biker bar.
What's that?
But bartender Gloria Brown would soon become a key witness in a bizarre missing persons case.
Can I get you something, honey?
No, thanks.
I'm sorry if you're going to sit here if you have to order something.
I don't have any money.
Do you want a soda? She seemed very depressed. She didn't smile. She didn't hardly speak. And very strange, very strange.
Several days later, Gloria saw this missing persons flyer. It was a girl who looked just like the stranger she had seen in the bar. Her name was DeDe Rosenthal, and she had vanished a week earlier. Gloria's encounter was the first clue that DeDe might still be alive.
Gloria called the police, but they were never able to track down the young woman from the bar. Since then, there have been conflicting clues, unexplained phone calls, and not one, but two possible sightings of Dee Dee.
32-year-old Dee Dee Rosenthal was a well-respected therapist who worked with autistic children. One of her co-workers reported her missing one day when she didn't show up for work. Police met her at Dee Dee's apartment. It was immediately clear that something was wrong. The front door was unlocked. The Sunday paper was untouched. Inside, everything seemed to be in order. There were no signs of ransacking or a struggle. But investigators soon learned that Dee Dee was being evicted from her apartment.
The missing girl had been having some financial difficulties, so it gave rise to the belief maybe it became overwhelming and she left of her own volition.
Dee Dee just would not be the person just to take off. If she was going to take off or was going to go away, she would either call her mom or she would call me.
Curiously, Dee Dee's purse had been left behind with her keys, identification, and credit cards inside.
There's a cat out here, John.
And she had abandoned her cat.
Dee Dee took her cat everywhere where she went. She would never have let it, let alone alone in the apartment, but let alone sitting out on a balcony. She would not have put it out the door and say, all right, goodbye, I'm leaving. That's totally out of Dee Dee's character.
Police found Dee Dee's car parked in its usual spot. But oddly, her briefcase with all her clients' records had been left in the car.
If Dee Dee were to take off on her own, why wouldn't she take her car? I knew something was horribly wrong with this scenario.
Investigators worried that Dee Dee had been kidnapped and perhaps murdered sometime between 10 p.m. Friday and early Sunday morning. That conclusion was supported by one of Dee Dee's neighbors. She said that she was awakened around 3:45 a.m. on Sunday by strange sounds coming from Dee Dee's apartment.
She heard what it sounded like a scream followed by a thud, and she likened it to someone falling out of bed and being startled.
5 hours later, the same neighbor heard the balcony door open. She just assumed it was Dee Dee, but it could have been her kidnapper. But a week later, unexpected evidence surfaced that Dee Dee was still alive when the young woman visited the biker bar.
Do you want a soda?
I do believe it was her. I really do.
Here you go.
She looked so much like the picture. If she had only smiled, I would have known definitely, but it looked like her.
Hi.
Hi.
You're not from around here, right?
She said her name was Lori and that she was trying to get to Florida. She left with one of the bikers. He told police that he dropped her off the next day at a liquor store near a major highway. Just 1 week later, Dee Dee's aunt, Celia, received a mysterious phone call.
Who is this?
Mama? Mama?
Dee Dee?
I'm okay.
Dee Dee, is that you?
Celia called me. She was very excited. She told me that she just received a phone call from someone that she swore was my sister Dee Dee.
5 weeks went by with no more news. Then Dee Dee's brother received a tip that his sister was in Florida.
They said, we've seen Dee Dee in the Fort Lauderdale area. As I started talking, the phone disconnected.
A year passed, and the woman who called herself Lori returns to the biker bar. She had dyed her hair blonde and claimed to have been in Florida.
My impression was that she had had a nervous breakdown.
Excuse me. Is your name Dee Dee?
No, it's Laura.
Well, if you are Dee Dee, you better get in touch with your mother. She's pretty upset.
She just turned away from me because she didn't want to have anything to do with what I was saying, because I knew, and she knew that I knew.
A customer from the biker bar dropped her off at a nearby tavern. It was the last time the woman known as Lori was ever seen. Once again, she disappeared before she could be interviewed by authorities. Many people, including the police, are skeptical that Dee Dee and Lori are the same person. Update. Almost 5 years after Dee Dee Rosenthal disappeared, Charles Reddish, the maintenance man in her apartment complex, confessed to killing her. He said he entered Dee Dee's apartment and smothered her. He returned 2 days later, picked up her body, and dumped it in a field of weeds. Her remains were never found. Reddish admitted killing Dee Dee after police charged him with killing his former girlfriend and raping her 14-year-old daughter. Reddish is now serving 2 life sentences plus 60 years in a New Jersey prison. Next, the story of a bold prison break and 2 unlikely lovers, an escaped convict and his female guard.
I'd like for her to come home and tell me why she did it, and to turn herself in, because I don't want her to get hurt. I do love her. Just, I'm confused right now.
Leslie Beeman has been in anguish ever since her mother disappeared. Kay Beeman is either a hostage or she's a criminal. Leslie hopes that her mother is innocent, but no matter what, she just wants her mother to come home.
Kay Beeman was divorced when her son and daughter were nearly grown. For 10 years, she had worked as a corrections officer at a local prison in Cumberland, Maryland. One night, Kay was on duty in the prison control center with another female officer, Michelle Puderbaugh.
Michelle, I'll take this round. Are you sure? Yeah.
It was just after 2 in the morning. Kay left the control center to conduct a routine check of the cell block. All the inmates were behind bars, except one low-security prisoner who was working in a nearby room. Everything seemed normal until...
Come on, lady, come in with us.
What are you doing in here?
I said, come on!
You know how serious this is?
You know how serious I am? I ain't got time to listen to this. Barnes is coming down with Beeman. He's got a weapon.
The escaped inmate was maximum security prisoner Edgar Kearns.
22 try anything and somebody's getting hurt.
I didn't know what they were going to do. And I saw the bathroom door was standing ajar, so I just darted out and ran. At first, I felt a relief that I was, at least for the moment, safe. But then I was thinking, but my God, you know, what are you going to do here? And they have Kay. What are they going to do to her?
It appeared that Kay had been taken hostage by James Barnes, Kearns' cellmate.
That ain't it. Which one?
I heard the buttons click and the controls, and so I thought, well, they're gone.
A couple of days later, Kay called her daughter Leslie.
It was about 5:15 in the morning, and she called collect. And she told me she was all right, and that she loved me, and she missed me, and not to worry about her, that she was all right. And she told me, she goes, I went with them.
3 days after the breakout, Barnes was captured. He served his time and was released. He told authorities that Kay's car was used in the getaway. He said that she helped plan the escape because Kay was in love with Edgar Kearns. Edgar Kearns had been convicted of theft and forgery in West Virginia. He was awaiting sentencing in Maryland for passing bad checks. Barnes said that Kay and Kearns had been romantically involved for 3 months.
I haven't complained, have I?
Mr. Barnes told us that she would spend sometimes a half an hour, 40 minutes in the maximum security area just talking to Kearns. So there definitely was a relationship there.
Sleeping, as usual.
I guess you maybe fall in love with somebody and you do some strange things, but Kay's pretty well lost about everything that she ever had over this one incident.
Once there was almost a certainty in my mind of what had happened, I felt so betrayed. I just couldn't believe she could do that.
I want to know why she did it. And I'd like to have her home so she can explain it to me. And it just hurts a lot.
Update. On the night of our broadcast, a hotel owner near Toronto, Canada, recognized Kay Beeman and Edgar Kearns from our program. They were staying at his hotel. He called the police, and 6 hours later, they were arrested. Kearns was given 5 years for his part in the crime, and Beeman 41 months. After serving their time, Kearns and Beeman lived together until Beeman died from an undisclosed disease.